All right. Hello, Fight or Flight viewers. My name is Nathan from Season 3 and Season 4 of Fight or Flight, and I'm here with a great one today. I have the winner of Fight or Flight's first ever mini, Cameron. Cameron, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm great to be here. Just some lore, some background. Cameron and I played a sequester game about a year ago, so I was very familiar with some of your games. So definitely very cool to see you play such a fun game this time around. How you feeling overall? I mean, it's about what, 4 or 5 days ago. Hopefully your memory's still there. So
I'm feeling great. Yeah, my memory of previous games has been called into question, but I think I have at least the gist of what happened in my mind. Everything happens really fast, so you try to keep up, and we'll see what all I've kept up here.
yeah, definitely excited to find out and hear more. So I appreciate you coming on. So I'm firstly curious. I played with you about a year ago, and then you come and play Fight or Flight. So what was that timeline between that? How did you find out about Fight or Flight? How'd you get here?
So I saw Fight or Flight on Instagram because my friend Davey was playing. I know Davey through the Survivor New York community. We've never actually played a game together, but we've been on prod together. So I was like, I should check this out. And I saw you are having a mini. I was like, mini is exactly the amount of time that I know I can like contribute because longer orgs can be a little um, time intensive. And I live in New York City, so I try to take advantage of being out and about in the city. But a mini, I'm like, yes, you can have my Wednesday night or whichever day it was going to be.
Yeah, it works out great. No 12-hour sequester games, no nothing like that.
Yeah, well, I feel like you and I played mini where I thought it was going to be this is a similar 5, 6 hours, and it was double that, which it was a blast, but I regretted it the next day because my day started 30 minutes after we finished.
Yeah, yeah, that was never again, but definitely very fun.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Can you remind me? I think did you make Final Four in that game?
I believe I was fourth and I had to drag
That's right.
someone, which is my least favorite thing. I would much rather be dragged than have to do the drag. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, no, we'll get there because you end up getting saved in this Final Four, which is definitely interesting. But
Ooh, I
so
love that twist.
yeah, definitely a very good one for you. So yeah, definitely cool coming in. Do you have any like org experience or anything more? I've seen you playing a few LRGs, and did you know anybody coming in?
So between our game last year and this game, I believe, yeah, I played Can You Survive? That was my second time playing Can You Survive? It's pretty rare for people to come back, but I was like on-site alternate as prod, so I had less than a week's notice that I was going to play. And I made it to day five of that, of like 5 days of not eating. That was my goal, was to like experience that true sort of survivor um deprivation that people call them. It's a deprivation
Yeah,
game. And so I got like the full experience of like hunger, and then suddenly you're fine because like the adrenaline gets you. And so that was, I think, my biggest thing. I've played some other games. I got my college friends to play. There was a Amazing Race LRG in New York City called City Quest, and we won that, which is pretty cool.
wow, I did not know
These are
this.
my
Yeah,
friends
I
who've
actually never
never
played
played
that
like
game, so
Survivor
that's really
games.
cool.
Yeah, that's my like feather in my cap, I think that. And like this was my friends who pulled the weight on that one. I just signed us up essentially, and they like locked in for 6 hours. We ran around New York City.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Yeah, wow.
So again, yeah, I love a one day game.
Yeah,
Perfect.
no, add it to the resume.
Oh, it's on there.
All right, well, more I'm finding out. This is great. Well, coming in to this game, you have, some heavy hitters on the cast from name recognition and from org experience. What are your
hmm
thoughts? You get the cast revealed to you probably about like maybe 12 hours or so before that morning, if I remember correctly. So you see the cast. What's your initial thoughts?
Obviously, I was very excited to play with the reality veterans. In particular, Kim. had to like hold it in because I've been a Kim fan for over 5 years now. Um, I watched her in Sequester. I watched her in Deal or No Deal Island and other minis online. So that was my biggest excitement. I was really excited about Izzy too, and then I was saddened that she couldn't make it. And then Kevin is BB Goat, and apparently was coming for me, maybe. And Philip was also a legend on Deal or No Deal Island too. So that was like starting out really exciting. That was a big draw. I was like, yeah, I want to play a game with Izzy and Kim and Phil. Like, um, I did know Izzy's replacement. So I knew Santi from doing production on Survivor New York. Um, and we played Survivor New York together. And our history, I would say that we're frenemies in these games. We have voted each other out, I believe. Actually, has Santi voted me out?
This is where the
Anyway,
memory comes in.
uh, more on that later. But I feel like we often are like, we want to work together, and then we have different views of what that looks like, and then we clash over that. And it's in a fun way, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know Santi too, super fun player. Someone that you could
Hmm.
definitely be frenemies with. I feel like he's frenemies with a lot of people, to be honest. So that's his experience. But
I could see
yeah,
that.
no, definitely super cool to see some of those people on the cast. Izzy would definitely very exciting, but sad to see her go. But hopefully, it's the first one. We'll see what we make happen for two. But stay tuned for that
Season
moving
two.
forward.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very cool. So coming in, I know some of your sequester game. You had kind of like a similar game from my recollection where you were kind of scraping along through. So did you have kind of like an opening strategy that you wanted to come in with? Like any ideas that you were coming in with that you took from previous games? Or was it kind of like, I'm gonna stay fresh and see what happens?
I was feeling more nervous than usual this game. And so I was telling myself like the hour leading up to it, like just chill out and have fun. Like the reason we do this is to have
Yeah.
fun. So play the games. And I knew that if there was ever going to be like a fight or flight where it was like do something or do nothing, I always wanted to do the something, which I think is part of what put me on people's radar early on. So in that second round, it was like do the scavenger hunt or don't. And only four of us did the scavenger hunt. And I was like, what? Why would I not want to play a game? We're here to play games.
Yeah.
So that was my mindset was like to make it as fun as possible for me. And to in my application, I said I want to like be like fast and slow and rev up and then chill and rev up and chill. And I think I did that. I wanted to form like a small group early on and then build that group as I went, which I think I did a decent job um, of doing that. I tried to get certain people to work together regardless of whether they trusted each other, and I'd be like, no, like play together. But yeah, I think I executed my vision, which does not always come true.
No, very true. We'll definitely get to that revving of the engine for sure, because that was definitely a big theme of your game. And then that second round, it was a comp beast or social threat. I mean, I'll skip ahead just a second to that. Is
Sure.
that, you know, that actually ended up being pretty pivotal to your game because you and C-Rat are the first two out of that. And I feel like that might have been your connection off the jump. You can correct me if I'm wrong, is that both of you might have bonded on that early.
Hmm.
But you also then have the downside of that is that your name is kind of out there for the next 3, 4, 5 rounds. How do how did you deal with that?
Yeah. So it was a combination of Sierra and I both played that game. And then in the first round, we had to vote for someone based on first impressions. And I voted for
Yep.
Sierra. And then we had a meeting. I always joined room four, which was always empty. And so there that was actually pretty crucial. Whether it was intentional or not, who knows? Um, so there was a point where Sierra and I were alone in room four, and I was just like, I'm so sorry for voting you. Haven't met you yet. I would love to work with you and like lock this down. Then we go into this game where we both compete and are out early. And so we like both are like soul linked at this
Hmm.
point where we've had struggles together. And I feel like having something that spark early on, especially in a mini where you're clamoring for any connection, is huge. Uh, so I definitely think that getting that early start, and then I also formed a quick connection with Emily, and I think we bonded over. people kept saying, we're picking people to vote out eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I was like, I just want to say that I hate that, whether you're actually doing it or whether it's just your defense of how you're playing. I don't ever want to be playing a game where the votes are allegedly random. And Emily was like, yes, I like that. I agree with that. And I was like, okay, come work with me.
Yeah,
So I think that was those two connections really helped me out early on. And then I would assume knowing Santi, so Santi, who I didn't talk to as much early on, could potentially, if my name came up, like push away from
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we know the Santi pivotal getting Kevin out there, so
that.
that definitely saved you.
Huge.
Yeah, no, I look back at that wheel moment. I think you had about three votes on that wheel. Bryce had about like
Hmm.
five or six, and then J Lo had like three too. So your name was definitely in contention. Up to chance, of course, but sometimes it's all about that luck, and it really worked out, I think, for you long term there.
Yeah.
But
There was a moment, I believe, on the wheel round where people were debating who to vote. Or maybe it was when Sierra and I couldn't vote. It was around two or three, where I entered a room and it was J-Lo and Kevin. And they all went quiet and they were like, well, who do we want to vote? And I wasn't sure what they were talking about, but I knew that it could have been me. So I just sat there like this for like 3 minutes. I was like, who are you gonna vote? I don't know. So I haven't looked back to see what they were talking about, but I just had this weird suspicion that they were debating whether they were going to do me or not.
yeah, I was in room two most of the time, so if that was that room, I might have missed that conversation. I think that round there just happened to be a room that ended on Kyle, and then it
Mm.
wasn't you, so that there you go.
That's that's how minis work. As long as people can get a consensus on some name,
Yeah,
toast. It's nuts.
yeah. And honestly, really, those first few rounds where Bryce was coming after you for a point, J-Lo was coming after you for a point, how did you were able to dodge those actually like pretty cleanly. A lot of the times it was close, but not, you were in contention, but I don't think it was ever like you were truly in danger. How were you able to like slip
Hmm.
through some of those rounds?
It really, for me, what I was trying to do was build those quick connections. So I had Sierra, I had Emily. Um, there was a moment where I knew that J-Lo had thrown out Greta's name. So I was looking for Greta and I was like, hey, do you know who put your name out there? Because you got votes. And she was like, no, I don't. And then I was like, I'm gonna wait because I don't know. They're like former players, right? So I don't know if they're buds or what. And then the next round, I was like, so that was J-Lo, just so you know. And just trying to provide information when I had some and deploy it in a timely fashion. Otherwise, I'm a pretty smiley person. And so I try to be like, I'm having fun. Why would you vote out the person who's having a good time? Like, I'll give you a big laugh or what, like, I'll give you something. So then hopefully you feel, oh, Cam's just here to have fun, or so I'm not threatened by him, or why would I vote out the guy who's having such a great time? That's so mean.
Yeah.
It works twofold.
Oh yeah, it definitely worked. I definitely remember that from the sequester game. You're like, oh, I'm here to have a good time too, and that I definitely saw that in this game too, where your threat management was really solid, especially with a lot, the smiley personality, all of that. It seemed like a lot of like, J Lo, Bryce, obviously returning players, but they were a lot more serious, taking it serious with the game wise. But it felt like that you were able to just disarm people with that threat management, so that was really impressive to see because I feel like that
That's the
aided you
goal.
out throughout the whole first half of that game.
Thank you. That was the plan. And I was catching votes every round. I kept being like, maybe it's this time. Maybe they'll finally get me.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I do? It's all because I did a really terrible job in a scavenger hunt. That's a funny reason to vote me out.
Yeah, it's just literally any reason your name just caught on, and then honestly, because it was such a silly reason, I think it fell off after that point too. So I mean, we eventually get to the safety chain where I believe Philip starts it off, goes to Megan, and then Megan picks C-Rat, and then it goes to you. So you are pretty early on that safety chain. That ends up setting up your relationship for the rest of the game. Honestly, the most pivotal duo of you and C-Rat. So eventually, firstly in that show or throw, you do vote for C-Rat, and then in the friend or foe survey, you catch some votes, and then now you're getting saved on the safety chain fourth. How are you feeling at the like jury stage of the game? You're safe. Eventually, Philip is gonna go. where do you see the landscape of the game at this point?
Yeah, the friend or foe round also was funny because I think I got like dumbest or whatever. I forget what it was like not smart, the not smartest. I got a few votes there and was like, well, that's ultimately, I think, a good thing for people's perception of me. The safety chain, I think, was the most important round of the whole game because it confirmed to me that Sierra and I were working together. So that's I barely begged. And I did a little like ambiguous, I would like to be saved by you, but I didn't like say anything in front of everyone. Like we're working together. We've been working together. Um, so I started off the idea of like, hey, I'm gonna pick you. Will you pick this other person? And nobody else had done that yet. So I wanted to pick Santi, um, because I wanted to. We hadn't really chatted a lot, and I wanted to be like, hey, I am planning on working with you in this game, actually. But I want you to pick Emily, who I've been feeling good about, and we kind of helped drive that J-Lo vote together. So I'm gonna pick Santi. Santi's gonna pick Emily. And I knew that Santi and Amy were friends. So I knew Santi was going to pick Amy. So that gives me Sierra, Santi, Emily, and Amy. And then I just kind of was like, whatever happens. And as people were picking down the line, I was like, okay, who is at the end of the line? So who's feeling a little stressed? And who can I like make connections with there? So that's where I saw Kim and CJ. And right after that round, I was in a room with Kim and CJ, and I was like, you are exactly the people I wanted to see. They both were preaching loyalty. There was in the safety chain, everyone was like, I'm loyal to a fault, blah, 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 blah. I did not say that. I want to say that. I did not say that. People are like, the season was so boring or whatever because everyone was loyal. Well, y'all were the one preaching loyalty. Anyway, sorry, I digress. But I was like, okay, these people say that they're loyal. I want to work with the loyal people. So I was in a room with Kim and CJ. I was like, I love that you said you're loyal. I've been meaning to talk to you this whole game. Like, I have such great energy from you, Kim. I'm your biggest fan, which is true. It helps that it's true. And so I was just like, I want y'all to work with me as well. So in that round, I went from having like two decent allies in Sierra and Emily, and then I ended with like six, I think, pretty solid allies who I hadn't promised anything. I hadn't promised Kim and CJ that I would never vote them out. I just was like, y'all are loyal, and I love that. And they were like, great, we love that too. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think
So that was huge for me.
that seems like truly when you started to rev the engine per your metaphor, is that, you were kind of just skating by, then really you turned up the heat. Where honestly, I think it's really true, is that that was truly the most pivotal round of the game where you really picked up a lot of those allies. And then once you did that, you kind of coast through at least through that double after the jury, and then through there you're able to skate through some of the end game, and then boom, you have your allies there, and then you just kind of have to, not be the biggest threat, and you really weren't because your name was out there
Hmm.
so much. So I think your threat management was quite good there in that aspect. So that was definitely impressive to see that round for sure.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah. I gotta get and ask you about the assassin round because this was a wild round. We get to the double. I think you're pretty clear there, and
Hmm.
we get the assassin twist where someone's going to be picked to be poisoned. They have to guess who is the assassin. Immediately, Emily is picked as poison, and I believe you are the one who is the poisoner here. I feel like I rewatched this moment, and you're pretty quiet, and it seemed like, Emily calls out, Cameron's a little suspicious. Maybe I'll vote for Cameron, and then I just see you stay silent, and nothing happens, and then Anthony asks to reveal, I think it's Cameron, and they get it right. So, were you throwing? Like, was that legit? I'm
I
so curious.
I would like to say that I was throwing that. I would like to say that I'm a mastermind and that that was all intentional. I could also blame that I had had like two beers by that point, perhaps. So maybe that's what happened. But no, I did the strategy of like pick someone who's close to you, but not necessarily like your number one, and then maybe they won't pick you. And I just feel like the moment we all turned our cameras back on, I have a trackpad as my mouse, and I was like missing the turn on the camera button, and I was the last person to turn my camera on, and then I was like, it wasn't me. So it just there was just no redeeming it. It was I was being as suspicious as possible. I had just had like a big target on my head that was like this person is like the traitor.
Yeah.
But it's nuts. Almost everybody picked their poisoner, which I've never seen that before. Like good on everyone.
Yeah.
I would not have been able to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it worked out for you too, that kind of everyone happened that way too. But I mean, honestly, it was great TV. I love that twist watching from a viewer perspective because I was gagged every single round when the poisoner was chosen and they got it right. So,
I also I also will say I think the final two in that round was Kim versus Ethan. And I was like, I have no working relationship with Ethan. They have every reason to come for me. So I think that I owe Kim winning that round to me sticking around. It very easily could have been me that round.
absolutely.
So there's the luck aspect where I found Kim and was like trying to lock something in. So I was like, I think if Kim or CJ win, I should be okay. But then it was down to maybe Ethan. I was sweating for
Oh yeah,
sure.
it was definitely close. Not especially for C-Rat too, because that was Kim's alternate option, and I know that you were in that conversation too to try and get it to sway over to Greta, and that actually proved pretty pivotal too. Is that Kim and Ethan now are kind of this public duo, and then now you and C-Rat are more of the hidden duo, and I think that really helped you out as well.
I think that there was, yeah, a Kyle and Camilla thing
Mm-hmm.
happening there.
1000%.
Uh, Very
Yeah.
fun.
And I want to go back to just like the honesty integrity narrative a little bit too, because you mentioned sort of playing into that on the safety chain round too. But a lot of times, you mentioned you never ever said that, you were, truly honest or, integrity playing into that narrative. But I think that your demeanor really played into that too. So from an overarching game perspective, how did you play into that overall throughout this entire game?
I Yeah, I never made like major promises. I don't even know if Sierra and I like officially had a final two. In the final speeches, I said that we did, but we never were like, I'm taking you, I promise, like digital handshake, pinky swear, whatever. There was no promising. I think we just knew based off of vibes and that like shared experience in the early rounds that we wanted to keep going. And I wrote in my notes, I was like, Sierra's like perception, it's like she keeps asking questions about how the games are working. And so people are viewing her as someone who's like not like thinking as like quickly or strongly maybe. When really I think she was just trying to make sure that she fully understood what was going on so she could like fuck people over or or like play to the best of her ability. But I think people were perceiving it in a different way. And so I was like, I'm seeing how people are perceiving her, and we have a good connection. Let's ride this out. Like, let's go. So that was ultimately kind of how I ended up like locking in with her. I think if Emily and Sierra and I were like in the final three, I would have been sick to my stomach having to choose. I wouldn't have known what to do there. So I think that, okay, to answer your original question, I didn't really make formal promises. I just did a lot of like, I like you, hopefully you like me, like let's keep each other's best interests at hand. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there were so many promises that and I didn't make them. And I wasn't even trying to be cute about it. I wasn't like we should work together. Oh, I said should, so therefore it doesn't mean anything. Like I meant we're working together. But I don't know. I think that in a game like this, it's really important when you say like I want to go final two or final three or whatever that you actually do mean it because that's such a jury management thing where if I promise Kim final three and then I don't take Kim to final three, she's not going to vote for me to win. She's going to be like, I hate that guy. So you can't like you have to be really careful about who you do that to.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in this the shorter format. That's something I've struggled with too. Is, making too many promises can't really hold it up to the deal. You know what I'm saying? So, they don't
Then
have,
everyone's
yeah,
mad.
they don't have a lot of time to stew on that information too. Because if you give them like a couple of days, something, oh, it was just a game. I understand, but immediately right after, like it just happened. That's hard to
Yeah.
forget.
I think bitter juries are much more common in faster games, which is funny because we're all the super fans who get mad on watching the actual shows, like, why are they so bitter? Blah, blah, blah. They should vote for the best player. Meanwhile, I get voted out and I'm like, I hate you. Like, how dare you? Which I don't bring that outside of the games, but in the moment, I'll be like, I can vote in a way that will betray you, the way that I feel betrayed by you. Anyway.
Well, we'll get to Amy in a moment, but I want to talk about the the now or later round is another very
Yeah.
pivotal point in the game. Is that it's
Hmm.
going to be a tie between Kim and CJ. Walk me through what you're thinking in this moment. How did this come to be?
Oof. Okay. So that round was really tricky. And another instance of like, is this how much luck is involved? Because I knew I wanted to go second no matter what, because I could choose to pull someone in with me and that would give me a little more agency. Um, I didn't realize everyone was gonna go first. I didn't actually prepare for it like to basically happen, where just Ethan and I were in the second round. Okay, so in the first round of Now and Later, or Now or Later, it's basically everyone but Ethan and me. And I don't recall whether Amy said Kim or not early on. It's totally possible that they did say that. Uh, and it's totally possible that I said, I have to think, I don't know yet. Like, I don't really want to do it because I didn't want to. Um, and that was the emotional side of me. And the logical side of me realized that it needed to happen because we were at what, 6 or 7 at that point. Um, and Kim is a huge threat and has already won games like this. You can't bring the repeat winner to the end, and the person that won all of the positive superlatives, like every single positive superlative went to Kim. You can't bring that person to the end with you. What are you, nuts? So I knew it had to be Kim or CJ. Um, and I knew Sirat was pushing Amy. And I was like, well, I had just formed a connection with Amy as well. I think we should keep working together. I want to like nurture that connection a little bit. And Kim and CJ and I have been working together with votes, no promises, and they're both big winner threats. So I was kind of happy either way. And if Sirat was leaning towards Amy, the two of us could decide the vote, essentially, I thought. Turns out we did decide it, but we forced a tie, which is a little sketchy. Um, so when I think it was we were in a room with CJ, Sierra, and myself. So obviously, if we're going to choose Kim or CJ, and CJ's in the room, we're choosing Kim. I think that both of them had equal winner equity. So at that point, you can kind of do either or and see who you're going to make the least mad. I did not realize that Sierra and Kim had such a level of trust where Kim felt that betrayed by the vote. Who knew?
Yeah, I don't think I knew that either. Watching it, but
Kim seemed very betrayed.
yeah.
So,
Well, either way, you are able to slide through and make it through. Yeah, very impressive that you guys are able to stick to that. And I think, obviously decides that end game because now you're in the final four. You have Sierra as your ally. You just need one more person
mhm.
to vote your way. And now that Ethan's gone, Ethan was just on the opposite side of the number, so I felt like you were pretty cool there. You now get to this little bit of a saga. Little, is it delusion? Is it mistrust? I don't know what happened with Amy. From my perspective, it seemed like that you were telling the truth in terms of this relationship, but never know.
Also from my perspective.
So you get saved by Sirat, you get saved by Amy, and then now you get to this moment where I feel like it's fairly clear. Amy's a bigger threat at this point, but you have to make this decision. Walk me through what you're thinking.
Yeah. My point of view was that Amy had been driving votes for I don't know how long. It seemed for a while. Often the first name that I heard was either from Amy or they would do the thing that I was trying to do of like deploying information. When Philip was quitting, Amy hopped in our room, was like, have you heard the news? Have you heard the tea? Come join me over here and I'll spill the tea. So Amy is very vocal and appears to be driving votes. So I'm like, well, we gotta make Amy's path to the end harder. I thought that we had built trust through the safety chain. And there was a conversation like a round or two before where Amy and I are in a room alone together. And they go, obviously, Cameron, I'm not voting you. I'm never writing your fucking name down. And I was like, okay, great. I was like, that's great. We must have built a lot of trust. I was like, I know you and Santi are buds. So I'm sad Santi's not here, but like, I would love to play with you. Yes. Uh, Little do I know that when I don't choose to bring Amy with me to the end, that this appears to be a repeat offense and like a personal attack almost, um, which I am left puzzling over for the rest of the game because I genuinely don't know when else we may have played a game together. And I know Amy's played a lot of games. I've played a decent amount, but like you said, I think my last mini was about a year ago. I think I played like a traders mini in like the fall. But yeah, I don't play a ton. So I tried to do some Facebook investigating after the game, not during the game, but after. And there's a someone named Simon who maybe played a Survivor game, which Simon and Cameron are similar-ish names. We both have beards, and maybe maybe Simon is the person who has done Amy dirty in the past. But we're all looking for the guy who did this. It's not me.
Simon, you're on watch, man. Watch out.
So whoever you are, wherever you are, whether you are Simon or not, that's my current working theory. But there needs to be some more investigative journalism.
Absolutely. Hey, well, very cool to hear about that. And it's also interesting to see your cogs turning too, especially in the when you get to Final Three. I know you speak to the camera, you're like, oh gosh, this is gonna be terrible. They're gonna roast me over the coals. And then also, up to where Amy's gonna ask their question. I know you. It's you're it's creeping up on you.
Just like the level of dread of like I know the bad question is coming, but I don't know how to respond to it because I don't think that its foundation is true to me.
Yeah, yeah. Because I felt like
Yeah,
we'll get there in a second, but I felt like your jury
sure.
questioning pretty smooth. It's just that question. It's hard to answer when you feel like you're
Ah,
telling the truth.
yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask about your note taking, and now it seems that at this
Mhm.
point you have a lot of win equity. But in the moment, when do you really truly realize, like, okay, I think I might have this locked up? I remember you saying at some point that you wrote down, okay, I gotta get CJ, Kim, Amy out, maybe in your notes, maybe it was those three. At what point do you feel like, okay, maybe truly I might win, I might win this thing?
So thinking about like luck and stuff too. The round where Emily and I were chained together, I felt pretty sure one of us was going, and I wasn't sure which of us it was. And we literally went through a list of every name of like who we could potentially vote for because I didn't want to throw my vote away. Um, and no one else was talking to us. So I was like, it's clearly one of us. And that I think was a time where I could have gone. And I'm hoping that it was my relationships that I had built along the way that saved me there.
It
If it's
absolutely
Amy
was, by the way.
thinking I was some other guy from some other game, maybe that's what saved
Yeah.
me. Which again, there's luck. Luck happens in these
It's true,
games.
but no, I will give
Um,
credit to you that round. That round, Emily just you're socially were a lot better and a lot better integrated. The conversation was, okay, well, we just don't know where Emily stands. We know where Cameron
got it.
stands.
Got it. So I would say after I survived that, and then especially seeing that Ethan and I were the vote together, I was like, I think I'm gonna survive this one. And from that point on, I was like, well, this is going pretty well. And especially seeing that the final challenge was a jigsaw puzzle, which I like have been trying to get into like competitive speed puzzling.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was like, I hope this is gonna go well because it'd be really embarrassing if it doesn't.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, you solved it pretty quick. It wasn't
Mm,
particularly close. And even against like CJ, a returning player who you would think that she would be, ready for puzzles or have done them before, I mean, you probably had like maybe a minute or so or more to spare. So it was a good performance on the puzzle. How did you feel in that moment? Did you think you had it like locked up when you finished the puzzle? And what was that feeling?
I wasn't sure because I don't know who chose to wait, but there was like a 10-second moment after I finished. And I was like, well, no one else has been announced as the winner. And we're running a little bit over time, like we're a little late, so I can't imagine they would hold it much longer. So I was hopeful that it had worked out. I've been eliminated on a jigsaw puzzle before, which is I think maybe that's part of what kicked off me trying to get better. So that was a nice full circle moment. I will say I wasn't sure what the last challenge was going to be, so I did take notes on my computer, but I also started writing down like who got eliminated which round
Yeah.
and like who. I also wrote down different types of drinks when Kim was betting on what drinks she could name. Anyway, um, but I was prepared to do like a sort of Big Brother or like memory type thing of who went which round and then who got powers which round. Sorry if the siren outside is
No, I
loud.
don't hear it. You're good.
Cool. New York City, um, and noise canceling microphones. But yeah, so I was preparing for multiple types of comps. I was like, I think that I have a decent shot if I get to the end. I will say I wasn't 100% certain whether it was going to be a final two or a final three. So when I made it from four to three, I was like, congrats to CJ. Like, and then there was another challenge. I was like, congrats to me, maybe.
Right. That's a good point. It was never confirmed. So, especially because I don't believe you have watched any Fight or Flight before. Is that right?
I've clicked around to see the
Okay,
challenges.
just the challenges. Got you. Yeah. So it has been a final two every season, 1 through 4. So,
Got it.
yeah. Sometimes maybe a little extra studying could have helped, and maybe a little behind the scenes is that we told you at the end is there was a draft, and I picked Amy as my number one because I knew that Amy had the org experience and had seen Fight or Flight.
Hmm.
For you, I mean, you got stolen on the wheel, but I didn't know if you'd seen Fight or Flight or not, so that was kind of my thought process. So Cam, you just win the final three puzzle comp. You have a choice to make. Is it locked up for you?
It was pretty locked up for me. I think that CJ's pitch is one of the most interesting pitches I've ever heard in a game. I've never had someone try that. Like I will throw the game. I won't try it all during final tribal final what pitches. I forget the phrasing. So first off, legendary move. Second off, I think that if even if she didn't try, I think she still would beat me. Like CJ's game spoke for itself. And my game, I think, I think spoke pretty well, but I think it would have needed a lot of like good words to beat CJ's game. I don't think it was going to happen. So yeah, it was pretty locked in for me.
Yeah, I'll definitely echo that sentiment. It felt like that, especially CJ as a returning player. Some of the lore is that, CJ lost that number comp in her second season, and she also went out on Now or Later, the round that she survived. So she had a really cool story, especially being nominated in that first round off the jump. I
Hmm.
mean, Logan said, one of the best fighter flight players, I'm gonna pick you. So honestly, she had a really great story. So I think it really worked out. I felt like that she probably did have it locked up. And behind the scenes too, Anthony, the host, he had played a game with CJ. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but this is what I heard: is that he played a game with CJ, and she did the exact same thing in the final three. Said that she would throw it, and did not when she reached the final two.
Of
So
course. Why would you?
so, I mean, I know that she really wanted it bad. My guess, and I don't know for sure, is that she was gonna try really hard. So, really cool pitch, but obviously you made the right call there.
Yeah, she would have destroyed me, I think.
But you make it to the final two. You are pretty good answers so far. I feel like it's pretty clean. The first few questions weren't too um, tricky. I don't from what I recall, but I think the pivotal moment
Hmm.
that I remember is that I think Ethan asked you a question, and you said a really cool metaphor is that I'm the lifeguard. I pulled these people down into the abyss. I started drowning them, and I feel like it was that moment specifically for me as a viewer. I'm like, okay, Cam's got this. Like that was the fire, that was the passion that I needed from that speech. If I was
Hmm.
on the jury, I'd be like, okay, I respect that. So what was going through your head, especially coming up with that metaphor on the fly, the revving the gas? Did you just have that plan, or was that you were thinking of that throughout?
So it's funny because Ethan kept doing a bit of like, I think that my journey, my story in this game is XYZ. And they did that like four different times throughout the night in large group settings. I was like, you can't go to the end because you're like plotting seeds. Like, no. Um, so it's funny that when Ethan was arguing against me in Now or Later, they were calling me a floater. And so I started thinking of like, what can I do to like dismantle this idea or at least turn it into something more fun? And I remember Taylor on Big Brother doing the what was the like I'm not the shield, I'm the sword or vice versa. There was some like really cool flipping that happened. And I was like, what can I do with floater? And so I was actually thinking this that round as we were voting. And I was like thinking I was going to stay. I was like, okay, if I make it to the end, what can I say to address these concerns? And when do I say it? So I didn't necessarily want to say it in my opening speech because I didn't want anybody to be like, no, actually, you're wrong. I wanted to make it harder to refute this claim. So I wanted to make sure it happened later. And so I thought it'd be smart to say it when Ethan was sort of doing like a, "Ooh, we're all tired and y'all are putting us to sleep." And so I was like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of gas. And so I think it worked out. But yeah, that was premeditated. I was like, what can I do about lifeguard floater drowning? Like
Yeah, I felt that was very
little
savvy,
word
especially watching from the
association.
sideline. Is that we have someone like a Marianne in 42, coming out with the idol reveal. We have D in 45
Hmm.
coming out against Austin. Those are like really well-timed final tribal, moments. And it felt like that you
Yeah.
had that at that moment, especially with the floater and coaster discussion, which, it showed that how much of a fan you are, how much of a fan Ethan is, because, obviously the super fans know that discussion too. So I felt like you handled that really well. So,
Yeah.
props to you on that.
That is huge, and I could talk about floaters versus coasters for a
Yeah.
while. I think people, it's like, is it Rachel's fault or whoever was like floaters get
Yeah,
a life
Rachel.
vest?
Rachel
Like
Riley.
there is a cultural misunderstanding of what a floater is and that it's bad or not. And I mean, I didn't think of my game as a floaters game. I was trying to build an alliance with Emily and Sierra, and I tried to lock in stuff with Kim and CJ. And so it wasn't necessarily me flocking to power. I was flocking to people and building relationships with people. And then when they happened to be in power, they protected me. That's different than floater. Floater is when you like, I think, is when you go to the person who's in power and you go, "Save me, I love you, you're amazing." And that's, you know,
Right.
different, I hope, from what I
Right.
did.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The distinct difference that I saw is that you have a lot more agency within that. Where a lot of the times you see that floater has no agency when they go to that person of power, right? You're just saying, please
Hmm.
save me, right? So that was the difference that I saw in your game is that it felt like that you just had so much more control, especially with your social game, surviving all that round and then pulling those people in. That was the difference I saw. And I think that made the difference for them too, especially because from your perception level, you gave them that floater narrative, but then you were able to prove it in that final speech, which was, yeah, I think that ended up winning you the game. And then you win. What's the reaction?
Hey, it was very exciting. I was a little nervous based on some perceived jury bitterness, but I was sitting and thinking like if I were on the jury, what would I reward? Even if I'm mad or whatever, what speeches would I reward? What gameplay? And I just thought that I had played a very well-rounded game, and that's not always the case. But I had shots and I chose to take them when I needed to. I have historically not always done that. That's loyalty has bitten me in the past by being like, no, we're gonna go to the end, we're gonna duke it out, and the person like beats you like unanimously. That
Yeah.
sucks. Um, so yeah, it was great, and I didn't even realize that we were like over time. I was energized. I was
Yeah.
jazzed.
Comparative to longer games like 12 or 13 hours, that was nothing.
Yeah, this was a walk in the
Yeah.
park.
Yeah. Well, so congratulations again, Cameron. Really, really well played game. I gotta ask now, would you play the real deal? Fight or Flight 25, 30 some days of like this online game? Would you do the real thing?
I okay. I would love to. The question is, would I get voted out first because of winning the mini? Maybe.
Right.
It would be cool to see if how far I could get after having this potential target on my back.
Yeah, maybe some sort of like returning type season. Obviously, it's not my call personally. I just like to yap and have fun. So, not
Kind
my
of
call,
same,
but
honestly.
uh,
I feel like yeah, we're aligned on that. I'm here to chat and have a good time and see what
yeah,
happens. Like,
exactly.
but
And well,
yeah, I think, and also like it was just a beautifully run game. Like y'all as the room moderators, um, Anthony as a host. Did I say his name right?
yeah, you got it.
Okay, double
Yep.
checking. I'm very bad. I'm unfortunately for social strategy games, my memory of names is really bad. So that's the everyone's least favorite thing is when you say their name wrong or forget their name. Anyway, y'all put on an amazing game. The twists were very fun. A lot of like I've played similar types of games before, and there were twists that I had never heard of or even thought to be afraid of. And you love that, like being surprised and have to think on your feet is amazing.
Yeah. I appreciate that from my perspective too, and I definitely share the same sentiment. I got brought back for a second season. I played twice in the real deal, And I'm very appreciative as well. I love the show. That's why I, decided to, yap about it a little bit more. So, um,
Heck yeah.
yeah, I appreciate it. I think moving forward, bigger and better things to come. We wanted to make it as fun of a game as possible and seamless, especially because, Sequester and other games have done it in the past. So if we're gonna do it, we
Hmm.
want to, do it right. So definitely was a thought process there. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it, Cameron. What's next for you? Are you planning on any other games, any other things coming up for you?
Right now, I don't have any official plans to play. I'm gonna be volunteering slash prod for a couple live games this summer. Um, and I want to do my own version of Netflix's Battle Camp, and I want to call it Battle Cam.
That's so funny.
And so I think part of my winnings for this will go to getting a wheel so that I can put people's names on it and spin it and eliminate people. Uh, and I think that would be very
Yeah,
fun.
that'd be
Just like
really
a
fun.
1 day game, maybe. Silly vibes.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, maybe sign me up. I don't know. Wait. Stay
Heck
tuned
yeah.
on that. But anything you want people to check out, where can people find you? Like anything you want them to know?
I'm on Instagram. Who isn't? But that's pretty much it for me. Cameron Couch, but without the vowels.
Hey, well, sounds good. Thanks so much again, Cameron. Super fun time talking to you. Obviously, I love the mini. Super cool to see all those faces that I knew, people of the name recognition, everything like that. So from me to end it off, subscribe to Fight or Flight. We're on Twitch, Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Um, check all us out there. Subscribe, everything like that. Like, follow if you can. I appreciate it. For me, I'm Nathan Howell on Instagram, and Nathan HWLL. If you want to contact me, get in contact, or just contact the Fight or Flight Instagram. Thank you again, Cameron. Hope you guys have a good one. See ya.